welcome everyone to this very popular webinar course on how to find the hottest real estate markets using data science. This webinar course is nothing short of magic. It's going to allow you to independently find the best cities in the US for real estate investing. So by the time you finish this webinar, you'll be able to randomly pick up cities anywhere in the US, compare them, and have complete knowledge of the diamonds and the clunkers. And you'll be able to do this without ever paying anyone, including us, for a course or for a subscription. And just because this course is truly free doesn't mean that it's not worth millions. Over 25,000 investors have taken this course over the last decade in some form or the other. I get dozens of fan mails about the course from all across the country. Several billion in real estate have been purchased using the techniques shown in this course, and I'm hopeful that tens of millions of profit have also been made, all using the straightforward and free techniques that you're going to learn today. For those of you who don't know me, we at Grow Capitus are quirky and opinionated amateur data scientists and technologists. We buy and build large multifamily projects. Our portfolio of 21 properties is worth $430 million, and over 1,200 data-driven and slightly nerdy investors have trusted us with their money. Here's roughly half of our portfolio. We use data science to invest in 8 different asset classes. So multifamily value add, then apartment new construction, single family built to rent, fourplex built to rent, student housing, built to sell townhomes, self-storage, and also flex industrial. So each of these asset classes taught us something different and hopefully made us better at our job, which is to protect our investors' investment. And we've gone full cycle 9 times on these projects, 10 times coming up. We have a 10th sale coming up. We have an overall IRR, if you know what that means, of 33% and average annualized returns of 40% across those 9 exits. Great numbers, but I have to be honest, this track record was artificially boosted by extraordinary market conditions until 2022. So we do think that future performance will moderate to a more reasonable level. Here are 2 of the projects that we exited during that crazy time in 2021 and 2022 when things were very hot. So just gives you a sense of what's possible when the real estate market is at its peak. Real estate has a lot of potential, and this sort of demonstrates that max potential. Our investors like what we're doing. Here is Chong Zi. She is a super experienced investor. She compares us to much larger companies with more projects, and she thinks that we come out ahead. Here's Brian, who invested in one of our projects where we had to navigate through the COVID pandemic, and we still doubled his investment in 4 years and also offered him a 1031 exchange option at the end. All right, time to get started with location magic. Let's get the boring legal stuff out of the way before we dive into the good stuff. This is just a friendly reminder. This webinar is for educational purposes only. Just because we're sharing our personal opinions, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to make a fortune in real estate. Do your own research, consult professionals, and remember that investing in real estate and stocks is risky stuff. And don't be shy to type in your questions. We do our best to answer them at the end. And if there's any particular city you'd like to ask us about, we'll answer the questions about those. And if you miss anything, we will send out a recording of this whole shindig, probably not tomorrow, but day after tomorrow. Every year before we start Location Magic, we share 2 slides. This is one of my 2 favorite slides of all time. So notice that on this slide, until about 2021 right here, the actual median income and the qualified income to buy a typical home in America were sort of in sync, right? But starting from here, we sort of broke things in America. Things broke. No one noticed, right? That's really terrible because today the qualified income needed to afford the typical home in America is about 121 grand. But the median household income in America is 84,000, right? So there's this ridiculous $37,000 shortfall, this gap that's opened up just in the last 5 years, and it's not getting any better. And this slide is not the sexiest, but it sort of is another way of discussing the previous slide. So this gray line here is the median monthly mortgage payment in the United States, right? The blue line is the median multifamily rent. And take a look from all the way from the left here, 2005. You'll notice that until 2021, these lines were pretty much tracking each other. And then what the F happens after COVID right here? At this point, the gap between mortgage payments here and rents, it just goes crazy. It's incredibly large. If anyone tells me that after looking at this graph, they can't figure out why they should be a landlord, then I'm going to send you a free pack of Ritalin because you need it. This affordability gap is astonishing. We've never seen anything like it. All right. What is location magic? It is a data driven set of instructions. It's not meant to be something where you come and get knowledge from us. It's meant to be something that you can do yourself. So I'm a computer science graduate. I've had a successful computer science career, and I'm an amateur data scientist. And I was always interested in basically figuring out what city in America should I invest in. Most people say invest locally. That's a nonsense concept, by the way. It just simply means that people are telling you to be lazy, right? There are 1,016 cities in America. There are 323 metros on the Bureau of Labor Statistics list. Which one is the best for real estate investment? How do you know? Just because somebody at the water cooler said, Fresno is best for investing, or it's Tampa, Florida, do you really believe them? Shouldn't you verify? This course lets you verify. You can pick any city in America, and it lets you verify how that city matches up for real estate investment vis-a-vis any other city in America. There are 5 real focuses that you're going to learn about today. Real focuses, right? That's what we call them. The first one, as you can imagine, is population growth. Population growth. And you can see in the green bar, it says if the city that you're looking at, some random city that your cousin told you about, it's awesome, it's great for real estate investment, some random place. If that city is between 250,000 and a million people in population, most cities in the US are sort of in this sweet spot, you want that much population growth. See this number here? This is computed through our data science. So this is the one thing that we don't tell you in this course. How do you compute this? Because it's too much work. There's a lot of code needed in a software called R, which you probably don't have a subscription to. So this is the one thing, believe us, we compute this every year. It changes once a year. And for this year, 2026, you want 10.1% population growth. When? Well, between this year, 2015, and that year, 2024. 2015, 2024. Between those 2 years, we want 10% population growth or 10.1% population growth. Now, the city is larger than a million people, let's say Phoenix or Los Angeles, then it doesn't need to have 10% growth. It can have 6%, right? So these are some of the cities that you look at this kind of growth. Why? Because bigger cities, they are lower risk for real estate, but they're also lower growth, right? And so people that are looking to invest in large cities must accept a lower level of growth, and also they get a lower level of risk because these are big cities. If it's a micro city, right, less than 250,000 in population, like some of my favorites, St. George, Durham, Fort Wayne, Indiana, or Idaho Falls, then in that case, you should look for higher growth. Why? Because you're taking a bigger risk. These are smaller cities. Bad things can happen in smaller cities easily. Like one employer with 5,000 people closes down. Well, that can affect you greatly. So you're looking for higher growth because you're looking for higher risk. So 10% if the city is 250,000 to a million people, 6% if it's bigger, 13.5% if it's smaller. Now, one big question is, we're in 2026, Neal. Why are you saying 2015 to 2024? Very simple. This course is designed to give you public data that is free. Now, when you come back 1 year from today, this course would have been fully automated using an AI tool called Claude. So I'll be giving you a beautiful interactive dashboard that you can plug your city into, and it'll give you an answer. We're still working on that. We're 80% of the way through. But for the moment, right, you still have to go to certain websites. Those websites are public. This year we intend to mine them and stick them on a dashboard on our website so you can just go in there and be lazier. But this is still only 10 minutes of work. There's a URL on this page. Do you see the word Fred? Big, bold Fred. Below that, there's a URL. Now, I'll be giving all of this stuff to you in an Excel spreadsheet that will come to you with the replay. So you don't need to write anything down. Just listen. This link will be in that Excel spreadsheet. So anyone that goes to this website, this is the Federal Reserve website for the St. Louis Federal Reserve, right? It's called Fred. So very powerful website. You go in there, you'll see a list of metros. Pretty much all of the metros in the US will be in there. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to use the mouse. You're going to compare the 2024 numbers and the 2015 numbers, and you're going to plug them into the spreadsheet. What spreadsheet? Well, the one that I'm going to give you. So let's do it now so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. Drag this over so you can still see this. And I'm going to drag over a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet, that spreadsheet here is one that you will be getting. So when you get the replay, you'll see the spreadsheet, right? So right here on this spreadsheet that you get, you'll be plugging in two numbers. I'm going to scroll up here, and I'm assuming that this city that I'm going to be talking about is Columbus. Okay, so I go to the Fred website. I'm going to copy this link. Actually, I already have this link open here. So this happens to be the site that I was sending you to. And as you can see, lots of metros here. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but this is pretty much all of the MSAs or metropolitan statistical areas in the US. I'm going to use, Phoenix for my example. Where's Phoenix? Well, let's just search for Phoenix. Easier. There we go. Phoenix. I click on it, and it gives me this chart. This chart, as you can see, has data all the way to 2025. I'm using 2024 because at some point earlier in the year that this data was not populated for 2025, and we only update this course once in a year. We're giving it to you for free, right? So 2024, do you see this number 5169873? Right. You can take that number and you can plug it into the spreadsheet that I'm giving you right here. 2024. So you plug that number right here. Okay. And then you go mouse over backwards, back until you get to 2015, right here. Do you see 4580345? 4.5 million. So Phoenix's population was about 4.5 million in 2015. In 2024, it was 5.1 million. Just so you know, because I'm a math major, this is 11%. There's a 11% jump in Phoenix's population, right, from 2015 to 2024. Now, in the document I gave you, I said 10%. But this is a large city. So it would have been okay if Phoenix's population had grown by 6%. That would still get a thumbs up from us, right? This first real focus would be good. We'd be saying thumbs up. But Phoenix is actually growing at almost double that number. It's growing at about 11%. So not only does it work for large metros, it also works for small metros. So Phoenix, from a population perspective, is doing really, really well, right? So that works for Phoenix, and obviously whatever city you're interested in is in this list somewhere. You can click on states if you want to, but there are 396 metropolitan areas. Interestingly enough, there's two ways of measuring them. We measure 323 metropolitan areas, but the Fred of St. Louis, the Federal Reserve, measures them as 396. Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter. You'll see all of the cities that you're interested in this list. All right. Does this make sense? Right. What we're doing is we're basically saying, hey, if I want to invest in real estate, I want to go to a place that has lots of population growth, right? And you don't know exactly what the appropriate population growth should be. Should be 1% a year, 0.5% a year, right? So we provide that number once in a year. Now you can come back here next year and get the number. It varies a little bit. Next year it might be 9.6% or something like that because the US's population growth is slowing, right? So once in a year, we give you this number. Do we charge you for it? No. Is there a subscription? No. Is there a higher tier? No, we don't. This is free. It's always meant to be free. And you can come here next year and grab the number. You don't even have to attend the webinar. You just register for it next year. And at the end of the webinar, you'll get that replay with the new Excel spreadsheet for next year. Easy? Good. All right. Let's move on from the first one. So now you know where the spreadsheet is. Now you know where the stuff goes in. Population 2024 goes in here. 2015 goes in here. And the spreadsheet will automatically calculate the population growth percentage. And it'll give you, a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Okay. All right. Let's move on to number 2. And median household income. You want to be looking for a certain amount of median household income growth between this year and this year, 2000 and 2023, using a website. And that website is called citydata.com. city-data. Everyone forgets the dash, city-data.com. And this, by the way, applies to cities of all sizes. Could be a big city or small city. It really doesn't matter. You're looking for a certain amount of income growth. For 2026, you're looking at 52.7% income growth, right? Between the year 2000 and the year 2023. Once again, why is it not recent? Well, I don't have access to recent data, and I wanted to give you free data. By next year, we'll be using, more sort of more recent stuff because we are now beginning to use AI to gather this information. But for now, 2000 to 2023, all I can tell you is that the income growth really doesn't change that much over a few years. So even though I'm giving you slightly older data, it's extremely likely that you'll end up with the same list of cities, even if you had 2025 data. Okay? Now, let's take a look at where do we go and how do we do this. So I'm going to exit out and I'm going to go to city-data.com. And this is their homepage. Remember the dash. And I'm going to type in Columbus. I don't particularly like Columbus for investment, but that's what I use for examples. Columbus, Ohio. I'm going to hit enter, and it finds the city of Columbus. Now I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, and I'm looking for median household income, right? So right here, with a little bit of scrolling, we found median household income in 2024. This number has changed. So you were copying the 2024 information now, 67,084. Going to go into our spreadsheet. We're going to plug that number in here. And then we're going to come back. Oops. And we're going to take the number for 2000, this one here. We're going to go back into the spreadsheet. We're going to plug it in here. And it will calculate the difference between the two numbers right here. And if that number is higher than 52.7%, then this city is producing enough income growth for you as a landlord to continue growing your rents and growing your rents fairly quickly. Let's call it 3-4% a year. Why? Because if there's not enough income growth in this city or this metro, then that metro will basically have slow rent growth, not just for you, but for every landlord in that city. And you don't want to be in that scenario. You want to be where the ceiling is high for rent growth. And that's what this median household income number is giving you. Does it make sense? Right? And again, this number applies for 2026. In 2027, you'll get a new number from us because this number does tend to go up and down quite a bit. All right. Moving on to Real Focus 3. So what you just learned, median household income, that was Real Focus 2, right? So in the spreadsheet, you've got 1, 2, and now we're going to go to number 3, and that is house value growth, right? Median house or condo value. So let's drag this over. We want 92% growth in median house or condo value between 2000 and 2023, once again, using city data. And this data looks like it's changed in the last couple of weeks because I taught this in April for a group and it was still 2023. So unfortunately, city data being a nonprofit website, we don't know when exactly it changes it. Sometimes the numbers are off just a tiny little bit, right? 2000, 2023, we want 92% growth in the median house condo value, right? Where's that data? Well, let's go back to my example. Remember Columbus, Ohio? We were here, right? We were here. Estimated median income. We took this number. We took that number. Well, if you go look right below it, median house or condo value, in this case 2024, you can use that number, 279,900. Take that number, plug it into the spreadsheet right there. Then go back, take the number from 2000, this number here, plug that number in here, and it'll give you a number. And that number, in this case, for Columbus, is actually almost double of what you need, which is the 92% growth. Columbus homes have almost tripled over that time. So Columbus obviously qualifies. A lot of cities will qualify. Median house and condo value is actually easier than some of the other real focuses to hit. So next year, we'll be raising this number well over 100. It's going to go up to like 103 or 104 next year. All right. Let's move on from real focus number 3 to real focus number 4. And real focus number 4 is not crime. A lot of people are like, Neal, you're tracking crime. No, I'm not. I'm tracking change in crime. So it's not about whether the city that you're investing in is high crime or low crime. It's about whether it's getting better, right? So what you want is you want to look for crime to go down, and you want the most recent crime number below 700, 450 in a crime table at the same website, city-data.com. And this applies to cities of all sizes and actually applies for all years. So this one doesn't change from year to year. Next year, I'll still be looking for 450. Now, how do we do this? Remember the city data website? We plugged Columbus into it as an example. And we were right here. We looked at the median household income. We looked at the median house or condo value. Let's just scroll down a little bit. Scroll, 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 further, down, down. Right here, we come to this blue table. Crime rates in Columbus in our example city by year, right? And on the left side, you can see the breakdown: murders and rapes and robberies and assaults and burglaries and thefts, right? All of them are here. We're going to skip all of these. We're just going to look at this blue line. See this line at the bottom? We're going to look at this line. What we care about is both this number. We actually care about all of the numbers here. What we want to see is a fairly smooth, not super bumpy, reduction in crime over time, right? Now, you'll find that for most cities in the US, these numbers are going to fall even for like high crime cities like Memphis, right? You're going to see these numbers fall. Why? Because the way that we are measuring crime in the United States is changing. So it's not because these cities are, have less crime. It's because the measurement methodologies are changing, and that's making pretty much every city, even cities like Memphis, look really good, right? But what you want to see is a declining trend here, a declining trend, and then you want to see this number, the one on the far right, be lower than 450. See this? Below 450, right? So what that means is the city has reasonably low levels of crime. Below 450 is not some super safe city like, Idaho Falls is probably going to be 250, right? So, but it's reasonably safe. It's not a city that's considered a high crime city. It's considered medium crime or medium low crime, right? And then on this side, if the gap between this number 567 and this one is at least a couple hundred, then the crime in the city is actually declining. If it's like 100, maybe if this was like 567 and this was like 454, then that's just the way that's a measurement in the way we measure crime changing. But since the gap is about 200 between these two, there's a measurable change in crime in Columbus. As you know, Columbus, lots of universities, and that's basically pulled in more educated folks from Ohio. So Columbus has the highest level of educations of any major city in Ohio. Ohio has 4 major cities. So there's Columbus, Cincinnati, uh, um, Cleveland, and Dayton. These are the 4 big cities. And of those cities, Columbus has the highest education levels, which is why it has the lowest crime levels, right, amongst them. And crime is declining faster in Columbus than it's declining in any of those other 3 cities. Does this make sense? We're still on city data. We're just looking for this table, blue column, trying to make sure that crime is going down and trying to make sure this number is below 450. Simple, straightforward, right? Now you've got 4 different metrics, and of course, each of those metrics you can plug in. Here's crime. I could have plugged in the crime here, and then it would calculate the crime reduction over those years. All right. Now I'm going to give you the most important one. Some people ask me, well, you've given us these 4 real focuses. I'm about to give you the last one, the 5th one. Which of these is more important? Should we give a higher weightage to any one of these real focuses, right? Which one matters the most? My answer is the 5th one. And the 5th one is jobs. And we don't look at jobs data over an extended period of time in the US. We only look at job data from the last 12 months. We used to look at 5 years. At one point, we used to look at 10 years. But then we couldn't, it wasn't really pointing us to fast rent growth or fast home price growth. When we started looking at the last 12 months, there was a very strong connection, a correlation between real estate prices, rents going up, and jobs. Why? Because when people get jobs, they immediately start spending money on rents and on buying homes, right? And when they lose their jobs, they immediately stop spending money, right? It's very stark, right? People are very like no one that just lost their job is thinking I'm going to go out and buy a home or I'm going to get an expensive rental. No one thinks that. So the job data really has to be what's happening in this city in the last 12 months. And we're going to give you that job data in just a second, but we do want to tell you a little bit about one of our projects. So as you can see now, we're data scientists. We're using technology to rank all 323 metros in the US. And we found that of those metros, the one that we consider to be the best is called Idaho Falls. And yes, you've never heard of Idaho Falls or you don't care. It's a beautiful metro, 150,000 people, where we built this property. The property that you're seeing is already built, right? So, and you can actually see it's not finished because some of these fence posts were still going in when we took this picture about 5 or 6 months ago. So we built this property, and this property has townhomes. There are four different kinds of townhomes. And when we built it, we realized that one kind of townhome was flying off the shelves. Like it was incredibly, insanely hot. And it's called the Fiona. It's this one here. And you can see there are 7 doors, 7 yellow doors here. So 7 townhome units in one building. And so when we built this, we were like, wow, this is insane. Let's go back to the seller who sold us this land, and next to it, he owns more land. And so we bought that land from him, and we're building the second phase of this townhome community. And the reason we love, love, love Idaho Falls is because it's winning. Its insurance costs and property taxes are amongst the lowest in the entire United States. And I care so much about that because insurance and property tax, the non-sexy stuff, matters the most when when you're looking at making profits. There's a great group called the Milken Institute. They rank over 300 cities in the US. I highly recommend you look up the Milken report. It comes out in January, and you'll notice Idaho Falls is at number 2 best small best performing city in 2026. And if you go back and ask ChatGPT, how many times has Idaho Falls been at the top of this list? ChatGPT will tell you it's there practically every single year, right? Its population growth is remarkable, extraordinarily fast, much faster than the population growth required for location magic. So amazing city. And it's sitting at the center of nuclear revival. As you've heard recently, because of AI, Meta and Nvidia and Amazon and Microsoft are buying nuclear plants, and they're getting into the business of investing into nuclear startups, companies that are, creating new kinds of nuclear plants. Well, did you know that there's only one place in the US that certifies nuclear plants? And it's Idaho National Labs, which is growing at an insane rate, absolutely insane rate. And the micro neighborhood that our property is in is also incredible, right? Just stunning numbers. Look at this wage growth. 15% wage growth over just the last 2 years, amongst the highest in the nation. I won't get into all the numbers, but amazing. The population growth in this micro neighborhood is double of even Idaho Falls population growth, which was already kind of crazy. Here's a quick look at the property that we built. Not sexy, by the way. These are not meant to be extremely beautiful properties. They're for the common man. You know, if there's two workers and they both work at Starbucks, they can afford this townhome because it costs about $2,000 a month for a 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath, brand new granite countertops, 2 floors, beautiful with many amenities, and it's $2,000 a month. That's pretty insane, and you can't get that anywhere else in the U.S., but you can in Idaho Falls because construction costs are incredibly low. So right here is where that new community would be. Here's the inside of our property. As you can see, gorgeous property. We built this last year, and we're going to build 75 new units that look just like this. We built 4 different kinds of townhomes. The winner, Fiona, was the one with the highest leasing velocity, and by the way, also highest rent. So all 4 of these, the Fiona had the highest rent and still has the highest leasing velocity. So this piece of land that you see here next to our townhomes is where we are building phase 2. And we are projecting a very high IRR. Pete, what was the IRR? I think it was 20% IRR, 25% annualized.
It's 21 0.1% and a 25% average annual return.
Yeah, so fantastic returns. We cannot get those returns anywhere else in any project. And we're building phase two ultra fast. Why? Because the city's already approved everything because of the previous townhomes, same builder, same subs, and same property manager and same construction manager. Everyone's the same. The team is the exact same. This is the existing property. This is the new property. It's a builder ready site because we worked with the builder. So he kept, sorry, with the seller, the land seller. So he kept working on it. And we actually, as part of our first project, built this road, Princeton, and put in all the pipes and all the electrical work under it as part of building this project. The city required us to do that. So now this is absolutely ready to go. We've saved an entire year of construction on it. This is what our clubhouse and outdoor amenities will look like. Absolutely beautiful. Ultra fast timeline. We are going to be starting putting shovels in the ground next month. So around June 30th, end of the month. And we'll be done basically by July, August of next year. Again, it's ultra fast compared to what you typically see. So we actually will be leasing up next year. We'll be getting depreciation next year. So fantastic project. I'll skip past this slide. But if you're interested in it, we'll be throwing up a poll, or you can just scan this barcode, and you can talk with Peter, our Director of Investor Relations, who can tell you more about this. One other thing before I go back to the fifth to jobs. This is our investor club. We do 8 webinars like this every year, and they're all very information. They're all very fun. If you're new to our community, please join multifamilyu.com/club, and you'll get lots and lots of benefits. Again, there's no upsell. We don't have an educational product. We just want people to be informed with high quality content. All right, let's move on. 12-month job growth percentage. Normally, in normal times, this number works. Anything above 1% annualized job growth at this website, right? So this is the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics website. Anything above 1% is fine. But I can tell you that just for this year, you may want to pull back to 0.5%. In the last 12 months, the US economy has been produced a disastrously low number of jobs. So even my favorite metro in the US, Northwest Arkansas, even that is at 2%. Normally, those kinds of metros are at 3% or 4%, right? So when my favorite metro is there, I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to tell everyone, look, 1% is the number that seems to work every year, and that's a pretty standard number. We haven't changed it much. But in the last 12 months, things were pretty awful. And let me show you an example. So that link right here, if I go there, oops, where is that link? Oh, there it is. So this is the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. And the page that I gave you, remember, once again, it'll be in the Excel spreadsheet. So you'll be able to go down here and you'll be able to grab that information right here. See this? That's the link. So I open the link. I can see all these cities. I'm only interested in this column here because what this shows me is the change in jobs as a percentage from February 2025 to February 2026. So not really a year, it's a little bit more than a year, it's like 13 months, right? So that's what this number shows me. Now, normally, most of the numbers that I see here are positive, like there aren't a lot of minus signs, negative signs. But as you can see, over the last 12 months, the US has only produced about 500,000 jobs total. Normally, it produces about 2 million jobs. Not, without getting political, I can't tell you why that is. But bottom line is, you're not going to find a lot of metros that hit 1%. So I would suggest that if you're immediately making a decision to find certain cities, you might want to look at 0.5%. This right here, Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers, is one of my favorite metros in the US to invest. It has its own challenges, but it's one of my favorites. And you can see it's at 2%. So if superstar metros are at 2%, it might be time to look at 0.5%. Now, next year, I would encourage you to go back to that 1% because I think normally the US economy produces about 2 million jobs a year, which means that there's going to be lots of metros in this list that are at 2% or even higher than 2%. This year, there's not a lot, right? So I look at this list quite often, and we can talk about cities in this list that are doing well, maybe not haven't done well in the last 12 months. So the the big X factor in the jobs report in the last 12 months has been ICE, right? So the immigration services, they've been pushing people out, and a lot of these people are still living in the U.S., but they're no longer going to their jobs, and so basically that shows up in the numbers. And that's why I'm asking you to basically cut this to point 0.5. And hopefully next year we get back to our regular growth and you can look at cities that are over 1%. So this year, normally what happens is, I go through this list and I talk about some of my favorite metros to invest in, and their numbers usually are, 2%, 3%, 3.5% in this column. But you might see a negative number in there, but understand that's simply because of ICE enforcement being so sort of uneven for the US at the moment, right? So I'm going to go to the top and sort of walk you through some of the metros that I like. Um, in Alabama, I really like Huntsville, but be aware that there's a huge supply glut there. Huntsville was very easy to build on, so they would just give any developer a permit. So they ended up with too much construction. So I would only say this is a fantastic city to invest in, but you might want to wait for 6 months to a year. Um, so in Arizona, I generally like Tucson. I know negative job numbers in the last 12 months because it had a strong Hispanic population. So that's a good place to look at. I also like Phoenix, but you may want to wait for a year because Phoenix has a glut of new incoming supply coming in. So you might want to wait for a year. My strongest recommendation in this entire list is Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers. Basically, everything good happening with Walmart and the Waltons is in Fayetteville, Springdale. Rogers, 500,000 people, incredible market, just absolutely phenomenal market. Hang on, let's see. Boom, 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 boom. There, 2% job growth, right? You're not going to see a lot of 2% job growths in this particular list, but Fayetteville is red hot. Um, California, not a lot of metros that I like. Um, California is very, over, is very expensive at this point of time. So I'm not going to recommend any metros. For those that are interested in real estate investment, I would simply say look at Riverside, San Bernardino, Ontario, also called the Inland Empire. It has some potential benefits. I don't study Colorado enough, but I do like the city of Greeley. This is a very powerful city. It's a suburb of Denver, so you might want to look at that. Connecticut, I would skip, to be honest. Delaware, DC, I would skip. DC is actually the hardest hit in America because the government also laid off a bunch of people. So you can see that District of Columbia had a shocking 5% reduction in job. That's just a crazy number. So um, Florida has a lot happening, but at the same time, Florida has huge supply. So incoming supply, rents are falling. So what I would say is, probably the only place that rents are not falling in right now is Tallahassee, which is not considered, one of the top 5 metros in Florida. So for the moment, stay away from Florida simply because rents are falling. Georgia, I like a few markets in Georgia. Um, I'd say Atlanta probably the best, but you've got to be a little bit careful in terms of where's Atlanta? Do I see Atlanta? Yeah, here it is. Okay,
Atlanta,
all
Sandy
right,
Springs right
yeah.
there.
So notice Atlanta is at job losses because it has a large Hispanic population, so that's a challenge. Athens, which is sort of a college town, is also interesting. Good job growth. Skip Hawaii. Idaho. Well, this is the only state in which I like all of these metros. So every one of these metros is powerful. Idaho Falls for lost jobs because it has a substantial Hispanic population, but it'll be at the top of the list again um, in the future. Twin Falls, if you like that market, it's fairly small. Boise is a terrific market as well, so I would recommend any of these. Wouldn't recommend anything in Illinois at all. Indiana, I would recommend Indianapolis, but only in one part of Indianapolis, which is close to this city, Carmel. So that's where the affluent tenants are, and I think that you can make good money in Indianapolis. Just stay away from the high crime areas. I would skip Um, Anything in Iowa. I'd skip anything in Kansas except for Kansas City, which doesn't show up in Kansas. It's going to show up in Missouri, actually, even though it's really a Kansas City. Um, Skip Lexington Fayette is actually a good city. So if you're interested in Kentucky, you might want to look at Lexington. Louisiana, I'd skip the whole state. Maine's very expensive for rentals. Um, I wouldn't go into Maryland either. Massachusetts, very expensive for rentals. Michigan, mostly challenging, though I like Grand Rapids. So the right here is Grand Rapids. So that's a city that I like. If you're interested in Michigan, you might want to look at Grand Rapids. In general, though, I'm not sure if it's the best state for rentals. I'd skip Minnesota, expensive, rent control. Mississippi, probably the worst in this list in terms of states. Missouri, I'd look at Kansas City. So KC or Kansas City in Missouri is definitely a city to look at, doing quite well. Um, so I was recommending Bozeman in Montana for a while, but the city seems to be slowing down a great deal, so probably skip away. Omaha is steady Eddie. So if you're interested in Nebraska, Omaha is definitely a good metro to look at. Um, if you're interested in Nevada, unquestionably, I would pick Reno over Las Vegas. I would pick Reno over Carson City. Reno is just incredible. For those of you here that are from California, I'll say something that get a chuckle out of you. Reno is the cheapest Californian city in Nevada. Cheapest Californian city in Nevada. And I think if you're from California, you understand the joke. All right. New Hampshire, I'd stay away from New Jersey. I'd stay away from New Mexico. Maybe Santa Fe, Albuquerque. These are actually pretty decent cities to invest in, but only if you're interested in New Mexico. Um, New York, just rental yield is the challenge. So I probably wouldn't look at any of them. Buffalo, probably. North Carolina has a lot of great cities. Raleigh is a terrific city to invest in, even though rents are going down there. So you might want to wait for another 6 months. I also like Charlotte. So both the two big cities are good cities to invest in. Again, might want to wait for 6 to 12 months because there's a lot of incoming supply. Nothing in North Dakota for me. Ohio, I don't particularly like markets that are losing population. Three out of the four main cities in Ohio are losing population. So I'd probably stick with Columbus as my pick for Ohio. Oklahoma, I actually like both Oklahoma City and Tulsa. My only recommendation is because the rental numbers look really good, I would suggest you stay away from the high crime areas. So talk to ChatGPT, figure out what areas of Oklahoma are actually more expensive with lower rent yield. Same thing for Tulsa. Oregon's pretty expensive, also rent control. Pennsylvania, I like Philly. I like Philadelphia. It just has challenges. It's city has high levels of corruption and crime. But if you're interested in Philly, it is a great metro. I'd skip Rhode Island. South Carolina, I think I'm sort of interested in what's happening in Charleston. That's a interesting market, and so is Myrtle Beach. South Dakota, I really like Sioux Falls. So this is a terrific city to look at in South Dakota. Tennessee has four major cities, and I actually have studied Tennessee quite a bit. So obviously the big one is Nashville, very expensive. That's not going to work. Knoxville is a good one, so that's the second one. And the third one is Chattanooga. The city that I do not like in Tennessee is Memphis because it's high crime. Texas, right now, very hard to make money on Texas. I mean, some amazing cities, obviously, Dallas, Houston, Austin are all great cities, but rents are falling in all Texan cities because they were going crazy for a while. So be aware that even though Texas is a great state to invest in, if you're looking at it from a 10% perspective, there's lots of great cities. If you're looking at it from a 5 year perspective, maybe stay away. Utah, terrific, absolutely terrific. Provo is incredible. St. George is even better. Salt Lake City is great, even though rents are falling there, so you might want to wait for a few months. Love Logan, love Ogden. Pretty much every city in Utah is a great city to invest in. Vermont, big challenges with rent control potentially, so you might want to stay away. I wouldn't look at Virginia. I wouldn't look at Washington State. Actually, in Washington State, there is the Tri-City area right here, Kennewick with Richland. If that's, if you're in Washington, you might want to look at Kennewick, Richland. I think terrific market. You can see the job growth here, 2%, which is very hard to get to. West Virginia, nothing in particular. Wisconsin, nothing in particular. Same thing for Wyoming. And I do not study Puerto Rico. I only study the 50 states in the US, so I don't know anything about Puerto Rico. All right. That's a quick look at all of the sort of major areas in the United States and my current picks for them. Peter, do we have any questions?
We,
I
we
miss out
do,
on.
and before we go to questions, do you want to throw up the poll?
Yes, let me throw up the poll. Please answer the poll because it really helps us understand what your interest in real estate is. So give me a moment and I will throw it up.
And in the interim, we can start to get to some of the questions.
Yep, go ahead.
And there's some really good ones here. Rents are softening. How would we know where it's softening too much to invest?
I think the truth is rents are softening in everywhere in the United States. Most places in the US that are good places to invest in had a huge amount of supply over the last 2 years. So you notice that I didn't have rents as one of my benchmarks, right? Because if you get the kind of growth that these kinds of cities would give you using my benchmarks, rents will strengthen over the next 2 years. Rents are not softening because of a lack of demand. Demand is very robust in the US. Rents are softening because there's a high amount of new supply. So that's going to hurt you in just about every good market. But we expect rent growth to bounce back in the second half of 2027. So about 13 months from now, we are going to see rent growth bounce back. Why? Because most supply in the US that's coming in into any of these great markets is all going to be done in 2026. So it's going to be fully or partially leased up in by the first half of 2027. So we should see strong rent growth. So currently, because of this softening, I wouldn't say rent growth is going to be your top predictor.
Is there a way to measure oversupply of new construction in an MSA?
Yes, there is. The answer is to subscribe to a free newsletter from Yardi Matrix. Yardi Matrix. And that free newsletter each month s- gives you some ideas about what's happening with supply. There's also a report that Marcus and Millichap produces in January of each year. It has 50 metros. So not every smaller metro, but it has 50 metros and it gives you supply data. So you can just flip through the pages like you can see Atlanta versus Phoenix or Tampa versus Los Angeles. Where's the supply coming in? It gives you that information by percentage. It has a one full page with charts and graphs for each metro. And so from Marcus and Millichap, and it comes out in January. I think it's free on their website. You can download it.
Question here on the townhomes in Idaho Falls. Are these for purchase?
They are for rent. So we rent them out at a little over 2,000. So somewhere between 2,000 and 2,100. The corner units are 2,100. The goal here is for you as investors to invest with us, and a standard investment is I think $100,000, and our goal is to get out in about 3 to 4 years, with not quite doubling your investment, but hopefully giving you about a 1.75x return on your investment.
That's correct. Okay, let's ask some questions about cities. What do you think about multifamily in Orlando and Jacksonville?
Both Orlando and Jacksonville have strongly falling rents. They both had a huge amount of incoming supply coming in. I think these are both strong metros, but I just wouldn't buy anything there for the next 12 months because it's probably going to be cheaper 12 months from now with rents continuing to fall.
I'm thinking of buying a duplex in Wichita. Any thoughts?
Wichita, Kansas, Wichita, Texas, right?
Mm,
So why don't you type in which Wichita you're talking about? There are two Wichitas,
Kansas.
Kansas.
Yeah. Yep.
I have looked at Wichita, Kansas a number of times. I would suggest that you stay away. It's very stagnant. So if you do this analysis that I taught you today, you'd notice that Wichita actually doesn't do well.
How about Little Rock, Arkansas?
You know, I I would just say this. Clearly you're interested in Arkansas. Why would you go with Little Rock when you can invest in Northwest Arkansas? Little Rock, in my mind, is not in the top 50 in the list of top 50 metros in the US. Northwest Arkansas is currently ranked number one on the Milken report for metros of 500,000 people or more, which is basically large metros. It's ranked number one. So if you're interested in Arkansas, you have two choices. Why wouldn't you go for the better one?
What do you think about multifamily investment in Charlotte, North Carolina?
So Charlotte is, even though, in the real estate market, a lot of people like Raleigh because Raleigh is sort of higher levels of education and more tech and more biotech. I still like Charlotte. I mean, it's the state capital. It's a bigger city or bigger metro than Raleigh, more people. It's a pretty good pick. I mean, it's hard to say that Raleigh is substantially better than Charlotte. I'd say Raleigh's sort of a nose ahead, but I think the two are really good cities.
Question here for Idaho Falls.
Mhm,
Can you invest via a self directed IRA or 401k? Yes, you can. And does Idaho have a state income tax? Yes, it does.
mhm.
Neil, what are your thoughts on Helena, Montana?
Um, a small market and doesn't have a big base of employers, so that worries me.
How about investing in a fourplex or duplex in North Dallas?
Not a bad time. Just be aware that you probably won't get much rent growth for the next 12 months. Dallas is in many ways, one of the strongest metros in the US. So if I was looking at, let's say I was a billionaire and I wanted to invest $1 billion into real estate, all cash, I can tell you at least 10 or 20% of my money would go into Dallas. But in the short term, with so much incoming supply, just be aware you're going to get negative rent growth in the next 12 months.
What about Tucson for multifamily?
I think it's pretty strong. Just be aware, though, that Tucson had a very large Hispanic population, and you know what's happening with ICE.
Where can I find data for smaller cities?
Um, ChatGPT and Claude. So get a $25 Claude subscription, right? And talk to Claude and say, I need, consistent data for smaller cities. Build me a dashboard. It will build you one.
What are your thoughts on multifamily investment in Atlanta?
Strong city. Just sort of similar comments to that I have to Dallas, right? So Atlanta's suffering because of ICE enforcement. It's lost a lot of its renters. Um, Good job growth, good population growth. Most people don't know this, but 2/3 of Georgians live in just Atlanta, right? So it's by far the largest part of the state in terms of population. So strong population. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Atlanta, but again, you're going to have negative rent growth for a year.
What about Sacramento?
If I had to pick cities in California to invest in, Sacramento would probably be at the top of the list. Um, I like, San Bernardino County, which is, the Inland Empire, but that's down south. So if you're looking at north, yeah, Sacramento's pretty good actually.
What are your thoughts on a city about 45 minutes north of Tulsa, Oklahoma called Bartlesville?
I would not go beyond Tulsa and Oklahoma City if I was interested in Oklahoma. So I I strongly recommend that you look at one of these two.
I noticed home prices have significantly declined starting in January. What do you think about purchasing a single family?
So let's first define significant decline. On an annualized basis, I'm seeing about a 2 to 3% decline. Now you might be looking at some city that where they've declined more than other places, but it's only about 2 to 3% annualized, which means that between January and now, we're talking about less than 1%, right? So let's keep this in context, right? A lot of that is simply because credit card debt is high in the U.S. right now, and that tends to affect how much home people can buy. um, do I think home prices in the US are going to decline? Yes, I think that they're going to go down maybe a 1% this year and maybe another 1% this year. Do I think that they're going to go down 5%? No, that's very unlikely.
Is Tallahassee, Florida, a good investment for multifamily?
I actually like Tallahassee. We have a property in Tallahassee and it stays occupied. Not the best, highest quality of renters, but plenty of demand.
Can you please repeat the Claude suggestion about your dashboard and small city data?
Sure. Let's say that you want data, demographic data and real estate data for uh, any city under 200,000 people in the state of, um, I don't know, let's pick one, California, right? So you basically go to Claude. buy that $25 subscription and say, I want an interactive dashboard of all demographic and real estate data, right? And you can say something like, of the kind that Neal Bawa offers in Location Magic. It'll figure that stuff out. Um, and build me a dashboard with all of those metrics, and it'll build you one. That's it. You don't have to tell it anything else. It might ask you a question or two. It knows where to get the data. I mean, it's going to get it from the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, but it'll do that by itself.
Ask a request here, Neil, to share your or to move your screen share. We're stuck on the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Okay.
Um, for Northwest Arkansas, you say it's a great city and good job growth. Is it good for single family rentals?
Yes, single family and multifamily.
What about Denton, Texas for ground up multifamily?
Mm, right now, I'd say nothing is good in so Denton, Texas is the northeast part of Dallas, right? So it's if you're looking at downtown Dallas and you look north a little bit to the east, you're looking at Denton. I would say it's highly affected by the sort of, you know, continuing multifamily new construction debacle that's going on. So I would strongly urge you not to do any new construction in Dallas for the best next 18 months.
There's another question on Texas. With the technology sector happening in Sherman, Texas, what are your thoughts on buying there? Single family or duplex?
So Sherman now, let's say I'm standing in Dallas and I'm looking north. I'm now looking northeast, where Denton was a little northwest, right? Um, I'm a little concerned about that being that far out. I know there's a obviously big silicon plant there, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's a little bit oversold. So I would be careful.
Edmond, Oklahoma is not Oklahoma City proper, but it has the best schools in the state. How do you feel about Edmond?
If it's commutable to downtown, 30, 35 minutes commute, yes, definitely look at it.
Um, San Antonio, Texas, purchased a single family to rent out, but I saw a decline in January. What are your thoughts?
Um, all cities in Texas are seeing rent declines. San Antonio is no exception. I don't think that you should worry about your choice though, because I think in the 5-year time frame, San Antonio is set to grow faster than Austin, Houston, and Dallas. Yes, you're not going to have a great year. So what? You might have a good 5 years.
Are you seeing an increase in distressed multifamily for sale? If yes, which markets do you see having the best opportunities?
Yes, there's definitely way more distress in the multifamily market, both in the small and large multifamily markets. And basically, there's going to be the big markets in the US, right? The powerful markets with lots of growth. They had huge amounts of new supply coming in. That supply has caused the distress, right? And I mean, you'll see plenty of opportunity in Phoenix, Atlanta, Dallas. You'll see opportunity in the big Florida cities. Um, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, probably more in Austin than anywhere else. Um, Nashville. These are all cities that had massive amounts of new incoming supply.
I have time for a couple more here. Vacaville, California.
Um, just a little worried about crime in Vacaville. So I mean, obviously prices are hugely high because it's in the San Francisco Bay Area, but I always see crime related issues.
Is Oklahoma City a good market for single family rental?
I think so.
This may have been stated, but how were the key goals, the 450 score, the 92% developed in each of your key metrics?
Um, we use a prediction engine software called R. Statisticians use it. We input the data and try to look for the point of highest correlation. And that point of highest correlation is what we predict every year. I'm sorry, I don't have a common sense answer, but that's really the honest answer.
Is the credit crisis affecting multifamily going to affect small multifamily?
Yes. And it's showing up in softening rent growth.
Moving forward, what are your thoughts on the pad split co living model as opposed to traditional single family homes or multifamily?
It's a niche model. Don't expect it to be adopted by the millions. There's lots of people that get excited about container homes and ADUs and pad split. These are all profitable models at an individual level, but they're not going to be runaway hits at a national level.
Great. Couple more. Helena, Montana.
Small market, worried about the lack of employer diversity.
And where do we get the Excel spreadsheets that will be actually sent with the replay?
Yep. 2 days from now, you should see the Excel spreadsheet. You'll see this deck as well. We give it all away. So there's nothing sort of held back.
And finally, Oklahoma City. Is that a good
Mhm.
market?
I'd say so. I just be careful about crime. Oklahoma City has some very rough areas. Best because you're getting a really good bargain for your money. Best to sort of stay in the part of Oklahoma City that is higher income, better schools.
Okay, Neil, I think that's about it. We can turn it back to you for closing remarks.
Real estate at this point is about picking the right place. Not every part in the US is growing. Our population growth is slowing. If you want to make money in real estate, you have to be data driven. Hopefully, we gave you something of value today. Obviously, we do this professionally. We spend 100 times the amount of time that you spend. If you're interested in investing with us, that Idaho Falls opportunity is one of the best we've offered in years. If not, continue being part of our ecosystem, come to our webinars, learn more, and hopefully that helps you find your perfect real estate investment. Thank you all for your time, and thank you, Peter, for organizing this.
Nope, my pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.